Welcome to this week's deep dive video. This past week, we talked about the importance of being discipled. We looked at the life of Paul and those that poured into him and how he was able to prove he was a follower of Christ and what that meant by not only the life he lived, but those that poured into him. This week, we have Jacob Long back with us, and we're going to continue to talk about the importance of being discipled. Thank you for being here, Jacob.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. And in your experience in doing this discipleship-based ministry, what does it look like for the life of someone who has been a believer for a long time? Would you say that's important for them to be discipled?
I mean, I agree with that. I do believe that no matter how long we are believers, it is always important for us to be discipled in one way or another. And so, yes, I would agree that we should all be discipled.
Awesome. I feel like I set you up. There wasn't very far you could go with that question. I'm like, am I right? Am I right, Jacob? Tell me I'm right. Awesome. Well, so what does that look like? Let's say you were, or I'm a believer, again, been a believer for a long time, but I'm looking for somebody to help me grow. Where should I start?
My first question, or my first thing I think about is, like, as a believer, like I would always want to be discipled. So, like, me as a believer, I've been in part of the church my entire life. Family, helped me grow up in the church, and it's like, man, I want to learn more. I want to gain knowledge. I want to hear what other people have done, so that I can, my faith will increase, and maybe my knowledge will increase, and then God will work through that. But I just keep coming back to John 15. It talks about, if you are my disciple, you bear fruit. And so, as a disciple of Christ, I would definitely argue the case that we're all disciples. If we're a Christian, we're a disciple because we're being discipled by Christ. But I know this question is more physically tangible to a leader guiding us. I assume that's what you were.
Yeah.
And so, so we look at our lives and go, where's the fruit? And so, is there fruit? Is God producing fruit in my life? And if you're honest with yourself and you have to say, I don't see a place where God's producing fruit, maybe He is honestly calling you at that point to find someone to disciple you, to help guide you in those situations outside of the Bible. Of course, the Bible is our best disciple, God's word. But sometimes we need that person to keep us accountable. And I think that's where discipleship comes into play the biggest. Is you got someone that's looking at you and going, okay, how are you doing here, and here? And I want you to be honest with me. How are you doing in this part of your life, in this part of your life? And if you're not doing well, okay, well, let's help guide steps to make that better. Let's create some steps that will guide you. And so that's kind of what, in my mind, a disciple would do for me and for those that are looking for someone to disciple them.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. I love that that word accountability you used. It helps keep you grounded, helps keep you focused and on task. It's like a shift supervisor. There's an episode of The Office. I can't get enough of that show. And there's an episode where they're without a manager, and they find the job just keeps getting done. And so they're not in a hurry to get a new manager. And the corporate side of things, they see the importance of having someone keep them focused, and so there's this little bit of at odds. We don't like to be managed. Sometimes it makes us uncomfortable, but also when we want to veer off track, there's that person there to say, hey, this is where you were supposed to be going. I think we all need that from time to time. I know in my life too, I love to study, like you were talking about. I love to grow in my understanding of things. That not only helps me to be a better teacher, but a better follower of Christ. But I have found there's been some teachings that are pretty attractive to me, but they're pretty attractive because they're what I want to hear. When we're told itching ears will hear what they want to hear, these teachings that come out, that they're catered to our desires, what the flesh wants to hear. And I've got this list of about 4 or 5 guys that I will call and just say, hey, what do you think about this? Because I want to believe this. I like this, but I'm not in a personal place where I can be objected enough to weigh the validity of it. Help ground me, you know. Do you see any of that in your life? Do you see an importance in general for that in the church?
Yeah, definitely. We're told that Satan can masquerade as the angel of light. Yeah. And so some of these teachings that I think people are being drawn to can be like they very well can be false, and they can be attractive, and we can, like you just said, see what you want to say, see what you want to, and hear what you want to. And so there's definitely importance of having that objective view that you can call on someone. I see that in my life too, where I get in situations where not even necessarily like sermons or teachings, but more like I'm in a situation and, you know, I need to know, like, I need some advice on where to go from here. Both are possibly like both options, both roads could be in the will of God, but it's just like, hey, I need some advice on where do you see, you knowing me, where do you see me best fitting in this? And so having someone to kind of bring that advice to you as well is super important to have that, someone you can kind of rely on.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Jacob. Thank you for helping push us a little deeper on this. And thank you for all you've done in helping us grow as not only disciples, but disciple makers.
Yeah, it's great.